Hey guys, how's it going? Here is my build for my Raider that used Daresso's Defiance for that super buffed up onslaught, and I used Cyclone, as you can see here, Charge Dash, which I actually started using the last couple of days of the build, and then if I really needed the high single target DPS, Blade Flurry. This build definitely had the DPS once everything was kind of put into place with all the Abyss Jewels that I got. And yes, I did use Abyss Jewels, so this is not a budget build by any means. This was definitely one of my more expensive builds that normally I don't really like get into too much. Just the Abyss Jewels alone were about probably around 14x, somewhere around there. So probably final budget for this build would be somewhere between 14 and 20x overall. I used Hyaon's Fury to go ahead and scale that damage because again I'm stacking frenzy charges. So I got a Tomb Fist, pretty expensive. Just a one socket though with frenzy on it, because the frenzy charge actually ended up being a bit better than having just two sockets. Also made me go faster, so that was kind of the idea. So I went with that, and seeing as they're a whole lot cheaper than a two-socket Tomb Fist, and it actually gave me more damage, then why not? So with the extra onslaught effect, um, it actually was pretty good with Dark Ray Vectors. After you killed one thing, you're moving pretty good, and then after you stack up your charges, then everything's just zoom zoom real fast. As you can see here, the charge dash is kind of a little finicky as far as like getting used to dashing back and forth and getting around. Um, Definitely had some fun with it, but it can get you into little awkward spots. Here you can see Cyclone clearing through delves. Cyclone's great for delves. I've been seeing a couple of my friends play Cyclone though as a cast on crit and just farm and delve as deep as they can. But overall, the charge dash though was a little bit awkward. I could get it around delve pretty well though, especially once I got to a point of like right here where the end point is. Then I just kind of charge dash around in circles and let everything die. Um, but overall, the Cyclone felt good, Charge Dash felt good. Whichever one you want to play with, it works great. Also, here showing how I can get off the path and get back on pretty quickly. Felt really safe. And here's some Charge Dash problems where I kind of couldn't get under the proximity shield. There we go. But also, same map, same problem. Proximity shield OP. But anyway, the I ended up switching here to Cyclone right after that death. I figured I was going to go ahead and switch around anyway, so might as well switch. But yeah, Charge Dash can get you into a couple of weird spots, which also is how I feel about Cyclone. You'll see on Shaper, I kind of hit the beam a little bit. That's probably my biggest thing with Cyclone when it comes to like say doing Shaper. But as far as dodging the hits here on the Minotaur, I'm moving around. He misses me a lot, and as you can see, the damage is pretty nice. Kills him pretty solidly, no big deal. As far as the clear with Cyclone, you can see some more clear here of maps. Sometimes you have to go back and forth. A little bit unique heavy, so I couldn't craft on all the plus range for rares because, well, Tomb Fist and I believe is it boots and helmet that you would craft it on. So yeah, I kind of got a little unique heavy here, and it kind of made it a little hard to get that extra weapon range. So might look into trying something else different if I do a Cyclone build again, just because that area kind of felt a little awkward when doing maps. And as you can see here, the Blade Flurry DPS is just insane. So if you really could just sit there and spam Blade Flurry on something, stack it up, release, the damage was great. So overall, I would have to say this build was a ton of fun to play. Again, here's showing charge dash clearing things. It made pretty quick work of the incursions. Both Cyclone and charge dash kind of could get you in a couple of awkward situations, especially if the incursion had vol constructs. And really, most of the time you could dodge those either through cycloning kind of to the side first and then through them kind of in between their shots, or sometimes you could charge dash and then release when the shots are almost to you. That could get a little sketchy sometimes, but overall it's pretty fun to hop through incursions pretty quick. Didn't really run out of time all that much. Sometimes on the really high tier ones, if they had increased life, it could get a little awkward. But here we go on the Chimera fight. Pretty much what I did was each phase I wanted to kind of show off that each skill works. So yeah, Cyclone cleans them up pretty quick, does pretty good work with the ads, and then switching to charge dash goes ahead, and it's actually really good here. I get to sit and then release on him. He found him pretty quick there in the smoke. That was a pretty good little phase, and boom, there's phase 2. Again with ads, does really good with ads. Same thing as been clearing before. And finally, the absurd damage that is Blade Flurry will finish it up. And like I said, if you could stand and get Blade Flurry to go off, the damage would be absolutely insane. As far as later in the video, I show the tooltip, or not the tooltip. Speaking of which, I got tooltips on Cyclone that would be, I think, up to 700k tooltip that you could see. So this definitely had some tooltip warrior properties going for it. But the in Path of Building, the effective DPS that it shows is over 2 million with Blade Flurry and everything up. Consistently though, as you'll see, it's somewhere around, I think, 1.5. Shaper did the same thing, although this Shaper was kind of annoying. He kept doing his invulnerable phases. Charge dash here, kind of showing this again. It could get you in a couple of awkward spots, and as far as releasing, when he's doing the beam, kind of wasn't too fond of trying to release. Same problems that I have when I do Cyclone against Shaper is I'm kind of afraid that I'm going to get myself stuck in the beam. That's actually another point. I did not down Uber Elder with this build. It does have the damage and it does have the mobility. I think I might have used a Sapphire Flask and got a little more freeze immunity over, say, the Stim Knight Flask that I had there. I did not switch that out. Tried to just do more damage actually, and really I didn't need it. So something to mitigate the freeze and the chill probably would have been best. Again, annoying phases here, just one right after the other. But as you can see, everything has the damage to just down Shaper. So you can do everything pretty much in the game. Pretty much just barred by getting skilled enough to do Uber Elder and having a bit more equipment that will take him on, like I said, such as a lot more anti-freeze flask and something to reduce cold reduction like a Sapphire Flask. But here is Blade Flurry again showing that it can do work. Overall, if you can stand still and get just release after release, the damage is just insane, which was kind of one of the problems I had with Uber Elder. But anyway, with all that said, let's go ahead and start breaking down the build and go into the item, skill tree, and path building. So here we go. Here is the items and the links. The main idea here was to use Daresso's Defiance, get as much onslaught effect as possible. Sadly, divined this one a few times and ended up with 70, but still 170% onslaught effect by using Raider is pretty nice. With that said, using Raider, stacking Frenzy charges, sadly destroyed a set of Tomb Fist, trying to get 2 Socket ones, hopefully rolling +1 Frenzy. using the boots for +1 frenzy, and because of all the frenzy charges, using Hyaon's Fury to buff that lightning damage. That means using a lot of lightning damage on Abyss Jewels. Rings had to get a little accuracy. Other than that, just was life and resist. Went ahead and used the Impresence so that I get a free conductivity blasphemy. Other than that, it had a little lightning damage, which was nice, and a bit of lightning resist. Helmet was pretty much just life resist. Pretty much the big thing there. Could have got a fossil crafted one so that it had reducing lightning resistance of enemies around. Went ahead and had blade flurry damage on it, so not too bad. Flask wise, Wise Oak for the pin, awesome. Basalt had my freezing on it, just because Basalt's got that extra armor, physical defense, pretty nice. And then speaking of armor though, I could have used a granite. I was going with Stibnite though, trying to go with that extra dodge, increased evasion, and the smoke cloud is always nice for the blind. Tried a little bit of Auxiliary's Promise, only had a 12%, but still the extra damage is pretty nice. I'll show that in the Path of Building. And then of course a staunching life flask. I just had bubbling, so I went and just used it. It worked out pretty fine. As far as skills, Charge Dash, Cyclone, or Blade Flurry is the skills used. For auras and stuff, I had Herald of Thunder, Wrath with an Enlighten, and Conductivity, but I also used the War Banner to there it is, to give me that extra bit of accuracy. So that was kind of needed, not necessary per se, but it definitely helps out a little bit. Especially when you can't rely on this Ice Golem to stay up. Then I went ahead and did the whole trick with the Ancestral Protector multiple totems so that I could get Ancestral Protector out plus a War Chief to give me that extra damage. Pretty much same deal. I could cast that, and then throw down in Vol, Ancestral War Chief, as a little bit extra damage. I used Double Strike as well to kind of supplement the single target there. So Ancestral War Chief and Double Strike was for the single target. Other than that, Leap Slam to get around. I was using Whirling Blades there for a while, so you can use either or. I just kind of prefer Leap Slam, so once I got enough attack speed and stuff, it kind of felt a little bit better to me. But again, that's just personal preference. Other than that, I had increased area of effect that I would swap in sometimes. While I was trying to color the chest, faster attacks was pretty nice. And for the main attack, Elemental Focus, Conk Effect, Elemental Damage with attacks, Lightning Pin, and damage on full life. Pretty much with a build that takes as much damage when you get hit as this, you're either alive or dead most of the time, so, or full health or dead. So that was kind of the reasoning there. Other than that, you could throw in like added lightning damage. LE Focus was more damage really, and since you're not guaranteed the shocks all the time, specifically on stuff like Elder or Shaper, I just went ahead and used the LE Focus. It really gives more damage at that point. So, and for the rest of the content, you don't really need the shock for anything. But supports for the Vol War Chief and the Double Strike, Elemental Damage, and LE Focus. Of course, Blood Magic here, so you don't run out of what little mana that you had left. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the gems and the items. Now let's go ahead and talk about the skill tree. The big thing here with the skill tree is I wanted to get as much speed as possible with the onslaught. So you get the more evade from melee and projectiles, you get attack damage during onslaught, and you get the 100% increased effective onslaught, which onslaught is 20% movement speed, 20% attack and cast speed. So getting that, plus if you could have got the dareeso's defiance to 100%, that's 200% increased effect of that. And with what they changed Rapid Assault to where you get the 10% chance to gain onslaught for 10 seconds when you hit a rare or unique, you pretty much have onslaught all the time, and onslaught lasts for 10 seconds on kill. With the increased effect, that's a 14-second onslaught. Really nice. Get a lot of extra damage from it, a lot of attack speed, so it works out pretty well. Way of the Poacher, of course, to get the frenzy charges, plus 1 frenzy there, and also the increased effects of your frenzy charges because of Avatar of the Slaughter. So that's the big deal with the Raider. I just kind of wanted something that goes fast. Like the charge dash stuff was really fast and fun. Cyclone, pretty fun. AoE kind of was lacking a little bit, but you could also change, maybe put the melee increased area. I think unarmed range, melee and unarmed range can go on the helmet. But overall, felt pretty good. And Blade Flurry just did a ton of damage. So as far as starting out, when got the health, got some more health, came down here for this health, and then I think I went, I went over here and got that mana leech to start off with a little bit of life leech, I think. Went for this health mainly. I think I took that to begin with and then spec'd out of that node later. Then I got a little more damage, a little more health. That just gave me some more regen, and plus the melee range with the Cyclone. Somewhere around that point I think I spec'd into this so that I could use Cyclone without running out of mana. Again, pick up the sockets for the jewels as needed. So there's a jewel, again, double lightning damage with life. You don't necessarily need the life, but I mean, there's not really much better you can get. Maybe attack speed on crit, or just straight attack speed would probably be better. Again, having that extra life doesn't really save you from much, other than just clearing just trash and normal mobs. For big stuff like Uber Elder, as you can see in the attempts that I went ahead and made with this build, everything hurts when you get hit by it. So the main thing with this build though is it does have the damage, but I'm not used to playing this build, so I know if you're definitely better than I am, you probably could down Uber Elder with this build. But other than that, the rest of the content felt pretty good. The deeper delves that I was doing didn't feel as good. Again, when you get hit, things hurt. But I didn't want to go crit on this because then I'd have to get a little bit extra accuracy, go for a few nodes there, take Fatal Blade, and have to get rid of some health. Overall, I think that actually in POB gave me a little bit more damage, but I was down to 5k health instead of 5.7. So I just kind of took the health and took a slight hit to damage. But I mean, when you're doing 1.5 to 2 million, depending on if you got Flask up or not, to Shaper, I mean, that's still pretty good damage. And so I took Elemental Overload to kind of compensate for the lack of crit. Also got me a nice little stretch up here for this, a little more life, resist, and then I went ahead and took the increased, lightning pin by 8% and the 30% increased lightning damage with attacks. So that was pretty nice. But overall, pretty simple tree. Of course, all the frenzy charges, I don't think I mentioned that, but if you're doing Raider, there you go. So a total of 9. That helped out quite a bit. I think I took acrobatics pretty early. More pin from these two nodes, so that helps out a bit. But so yeah, let's go ahead and look at the POB and what the potential of this build actually holds. So with the Path of Building here, I've got damage on full life ticked, or always on full life. We've also got the max frenzies and onslaught plus intimidate. So with charge dash, which I'm pretty sure that's not an accurate number of its DPS. I'm guessing that's when it's fully stacked and just pulsing. It's actually quite a bit, and I think when you go to full stacks and then release, you actually can pull a lot more damage than what that says. But again, charge dash is a little weird. Got to get used to it. Got to know what you're doing with it. So again, really fun for clearing maps. It was actually kind of cool doing some of the bosses because it made it a little easier than just being right there in their face with Cyclone or Blade Flurry. But I mean, it's kind of one of those things I could switch in and out is what seemed kind of fun at the time once I got the build, set in stone as far as everything else. Let's go ahead and we'll go up to Cyclone. Again, looking at the damage here, still almost 1 million. And I mean, Cyclone is Cyclone. As you spin, do some decent damage. You get the mobility while attacking, so it's still pretty nice. And then Blade Flurry, crazy DPS here. Again, all I have for checked is just this stuff right here. I do not have my potions on, and yeah, like without any flask, 1.6 million DPS. Crazy DPS for this build. Yes, it was a bit expensive with all the jewels being dual lightning damage, but let's say we ticked on just that. So if you're using Stibnite or Granite, 1.8, almost 1.9 million, and then with that, over 2 million damage with Blade Flurry. Pretty insane. Let's go ahead and look at the Cyclone and the Charge Dash. Again, both are over 1 million, and I believe the potential there for Charge Dash is actually higher than what it says for the DPS. Not exactly sure on that, but again, felt pretty smooth for doing everything. Uber Elder again wasn't my thing with this build, but still really good for going fast and zooming around, especially the Charge Dash. It was a ton of fun. But yeah, overall, crazy damage potential. Really fun to just spin around or dash around. Small areas, like doing stuff like Toxic Sewer maps, were great, but as you can see here, damage potential is up there. If you're used to speed, fast builds and stuff, and having a lot of evasion, and you know when you take a hit, you really can feel it, then you probably can do all the content with this build just fine. But it is expensive though, so that was one thing. It was definitely out of my usual budget of builds, because the Tomb Fist right there, they were about an X, and each jewel was about 1 to 2, maybe 3X each. But anyway, that's going to be it for the build. Thanks for watching. Peace.